So there's been a bit of a change in the topic that's given for this session. It was understanding your customer, but I thought given a lot of that has happened yesterday with design thinking and value proposition canvas and business model canvas, I thought we can sort of move forward and look at these two very important aspects of a startup, which is target market planning and target revenue planning, right? And I just want to emphasize the word planning, and it's not plan, right? They're two different things, right? They're two very, very different things. They're not the same, right? So the importance in the word planning is on the method, the process, right? And plan is what comes out of that, right? And typically, the output takes up much more importance, which is why you find, and I'm sure some of you have done it too, is to go Google for a business plan template, right? Because, yeah, the outcome is more important than the process or the method, right? So you go, okay, people have already invented the wheel. Why do I reinvent the wheel? So let me go grab hold of a template and put my business plan. No, it doesn't work that way. It works if you're an established business. If you're a startup, the process of planning, the method and the approach for how you define your target market, how you size your target market, and how you sort of estimate your target revenue is a very, very important process. It informs you a lot more, puts structure, puts rigor into the process, right? So what I'll try to do today in the next 1.5 hours is, I'm all waking up today, right? So I'm not making mistakes. So in the next 1.5 hours, what I'll try to do is help you with a method to do planning, right? Target market planning and target revenue planning. Fair deal? Up for it? Yes. All right, okay. Moment of truth. Rate your skills in defining, sizing your target market, as in for your startup, defining, sizing your startup's target market, as well as in setting target revenues. Rate yourself on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being the lowest and 10 being the highest. Don't look at my face. There's no number written here, so. You don't have to announce it, you don't have to share it with your buddy next, but just keep that in mind, yeah? So, for example, things like how good has been, how rigorous and structured has been my process of doing this. That's a component for the evaluation, right? Am I confident that my target market definition as well as the size is reasonably free of risks, right? So ask such.
Say only identification of market. Right now we are not.
And sizing as well.
Yeah, but right now we are not talking of implementation.
No.
No, obviously you are not implemented.
Correct. We hope you do it. Yeah. 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 Okay. So remember, Don Bradman himself had only 99.96, so nobody gets a 10, right? So, yeah, done? Okay? All right. So we're going to do a case study model of, we're an IIM-A, and let's go by what works here, right? The order of the day. Let's learn through case studies, yeah? So for the next, let's say, half an hour or so, all of us are going to become one startup, right? And I'm going to share with you a story of a real-world startup that I was engaged with maybe about 6 months back. And through that story, we're going to learn the process of target market planning and target revenue planning, okay? So all of us now become sort of joint CEOs or co-founders of this startup, okay? So about 6 months back, there was a startup in Coimbatore that came to me with a business plan, right? And they said, we're going to be solving the problem of unemployment and underemployment, right? It sounded more like Narendra Modi. Yeah, but they started with that. We're going to solve the problem of unemployment and underemployment. And I said, okay, well, yeah, very courageous, very visionary. But are there specifics, that you're looking at? They said, yeah, we're looking at a very specific segment, and that is graduates of Polytechnic, ITI, arts, science, commerce, from tier 2, tier 3, and lower locations who are unemployed and underemployed, right? And I said, okay, now that makes sense. Sounding more like a chief minister now, if not a prime minister. Okay, I said, okay, now what next? What's the business plan, right? They said, our business plan is to basically, or our business model basically is to set up skills training centers, right? Both technical skills as well as soft skills, employability skills, right? Technical as well as soft skills. And we're going to set up these training centers in these tier 4, whatever, tier 3, tier 4 towns, locations, closer to semi-rural, rural settings. And we're going to be investing about 10 crores or so in the next 2 years to be able to set up these training institutes, procure the content or prepare the content, hire the trainers, and basically run this machinery. And we hope that more people will have skill, and with the skill, they will be employed duly, or they will get employment, right? There will no longer be unemployment and underemployment, right? Okay, first question to all of us as co-conspirators in this startup, right? First question to all of us. What's the size of the target market? So what is the target market and what is the size? Let me put it that way. What's the target market?
Target market is all the tier 2, tier 3 or tier 3 and lower towns.
Target market is which
All the colleges we can, colleges.
which customer you are targeting based on the age or needs or demand, and
Sure.
size is something which is in value numbers.
Correct. It's a number of people, number of customers. Okay?
It depends upon who will pay. In this case, it's not clear who is going to pay. So unless you know who's going to pay, we can't decide on target market.
Brilliant. Just keep that, park your thought. I think you can step out of the discussion and come back after an hour. You don't need this. Brilliant. Okay. Yeah. No, it was a compliment. Take it well. Yeah.
Wait, because underemployment is something that cannot be measured, quantified. So if you want to do a target sizing on that, the employment exchange.
Actually, the jobs created like the demand side of it. We'll have to derive from the demand how much percentage can be taken.
So
Okay.
there could be people who have passed out from colleges or not yet employed. They could also be a target.
Okay.
Are we not looking at supply? This is a supply chain, right? The demand is going to be who's going to hire.
That's the point. He said, is the market the unemployed candidates or the market the employers?
Who's going to pay for the service?
Who's going to pay for the service? Okay.
Just want clarity on 3 questions here. Was it a pan-India presence, number 1? Number 2 is it an offline or an online model? Because depending on that, how many trainers you will need. That's number 2. Number 3 is what's the number of years that they're looking at? How many years, how many people they'll be able to train?
Right. Okay. Now, basic question. Why does all of that matter? What's the point? Yeah, I can do excellent Excel work for a 5-year, 10-year business plan. I can keep dragging my cells. I can put all kinds of numbers into the spreadsheet. I can make assumptions on there will be so many unemployed, underemployed graduates at a national level, at a regional level, at a state level, at a local level. I can have all kinds of these numbers, and I can get these numbers from NSDC or government or employment exchanges. There are enough sources for data. We're not short of that. So if somebody is saying, is your data accurate? Absolutely accurate. But the biggest freaking assumption we're making in this process is, 1, the money will come from somewhere, right? And for the money to come from somewhere, there'll be enough demand that we will generate, both on the job seeker side as well as on the job provider side, right? How does it really matter whether I do a 5-year target market planning or a 10-year target revenue planning? What's the first thing that this startup should really do?
The identity, using the target market.
Sorry?
What to teach and where to place. They need to identify the address, the market they are planning to address, a small location or something.
We should check for willingness to pay.
Startup should identify
Whether there's a need of this.
So
Probably at first the startup should look at the sample size. Say there are this many colleges in some
correct, but
state,
looking, studying, yeah, it's all academic.
and then look at the level of affordability. Segregate on the basis of affordability.
Okay, fine. You narrow it down and you put it down. What will do? It'll bring it down by, let's say, 30%, right? Your masses, your universe is so much, it'll bring it down by 30%, right? What is the Sure, yeah, sure. I can say, yeah, I'll have a a job listing fee for the employers, and I'll have a conversion fee. I'll have a outcome fee for the for the candidates. Yeah, I can have. True. So you do all of that. You do all of that. My single question remains: what is the biggest assumption that this startup is making when it says, I'm going to put 10 crores and set up these training institutes?
So additional skill will make them.
They will able to make them employable.
One second. One second. You had a point, yeah.
The biggest assumption according to me is money will come, and money will only come when you have a validated.
What is the assumption before the assumption money will come?
Target market has the money to pay for it.
There is
Number of jobs.
there is unemployment and underemployment. Okay, all right. Now, does that need validation?
Yes.
Okay. Now, as this startup, do I have to validate whether there are 4,085,342 unemployed? Do I need that number?
No.
What do I need?
So assumption
Real
is
problem.
What percentage of youth is?
Again, yeah,
That's not the purpose.
23% of 4,083,000.
May I share?
Exactly, right? How many of these unemployed, underemployed graduates actually want to be skilled, right? So you're basically saying, I will set up a training center. It's like I'll set up a new temple and people will come. No, religion does not require validation, right? But this damn thing requires validation, right? You're making the assumption that I'll set up training centers and people will come, right? Now, why will people come? What will motivate an unemployed, underemployed Polytechnic, ITI graduate? Does he even know? Does he even know he's underemployed? When will you know you're underemployed? I mean, we clearly as entrepreneurs are underemployed. That's a different thing, including mine in that process. Yeah, but how do you know you're unemployed? Only when you know you have a better job, right? I mean, if someone calls up and says, hey, by the way, you have a shot at this job, come and do an interview. Even if you fail it, you still know that, oh, you know what, I actually can be better employed, right? So what's the first proof that this startup has to build before they put a 10 crore business plan and start doing target market sizing for the unemployed, for the underemployed? What's the first proof?
Their service will make them employable, or they have enough job.
Something like what Naukri does. At this experience and that
start at a small scale and then build on top.
Psychological, yeah.
Demonstrate the gain.
show what they can achieve.
Okay, so sure, let's do this right now. What is the reason for unemployment and underemployment? Let's take underemployment for now. I mean, let's just look at that for a starters, right? So what do you think causes underemployment? Not knowing where the jobs are. What do you mean by that? You're saying, are there even jobs that I can get, duly employed in, right? So,
More demand, less supply.
right. So when I asked this question, they said yes. There are several polytechnic ITA graduates who, after graduation, take up a 8,000 rupee driver's job, where just 15 kilometers from where they live, there is a technician's job for 12,000 rupees or 15,000 rupees, and that's what they're educated or qualified to do, right? They just don't know. Now, what else is the reason for underemployment? Skill gap. What else? So let's call it lack of awareness, right? All of that, lack of awareness, skill gap. What else? Sorry? That's awareness. All of that comes. What else?
Actually, there are less jobs in the market.
There are less jobs in the market, right? There aren't enough jobs in the market. Okay. Now, if you are not a chief minister, you're not a prime minister, can you solve the problem of? It's a macroeconomic issue that hopefully. Now, between the problem of lack of awareness and lack of, or skill gap, right? Lack of due skills, lack of adequate skills, which is a bigger problem? So are you saying there are more number of people underemployed because of awareness, less number of people underemployed because of skill gap? Which is more likely? Skill gap would be much higher, right? I mean, yeah, we could intuit this, right? So now if you are this startup, all of us are, right? And we say here is X percentage of underemployed ITI Polytechnic graduates who are underemployed because they don't know that there are better jobs, whereas there is this much bigger chunk of ITI Polytechnic graduates who are underemployed, but they are underemployed because not only don't they know where these jobs are or there are these jobs, they are underskilled, right? Now, you're basically looking at a much smaller target market for the first case and a much bigger target market for the second case, right? Now, which one should they go after?
I would say the first one.
Why?
Because that's much more easier. That's the sweet spot where they can connect both. Where the opportunity is.
Where they can build
And
a
then scale it up for the ITI to review the skill sets and find.
Right. Now, so while you were saying that, he said validate the idea. Someone said validate, I heard it, yeah. So someone said validate the idea. Now, do you have to validate the idea or do you have to build a proof of business? Right? Now, where can you build a proof of business in a shorter time and with lowest cash? Option 1, option 2? Option 1. All of us agree? Yeah? And let's say it again. Why option 1? So option 1 is, let us solve the problem of underemployment by solving the problem of lack of awareness, right? And we're saying that is a much smaller market. The much bigger market is naturally underemployment because of lack of skills, right? All of us are saying option 1 is better for us to build proof of business, right?
So, but lack of awareness if we are going to do also, how the money will come into it?
What do you think? Can anybody answer? Our partner is having a problem with where the money will come from. Can anyone help him?
Awareness is something like we are just giving the awareness. We are telling them, okay, this kind of. No, but that is what.
Connector between whom? Between whom?
That is what like a portal is working, sir. We are connecting it.
Right.
Platform which one?
Right. Okay. Now, why do you think the employee will pay you? If you're doing the connecting, why do you think the employee will pay you?
No, but we have not scaled him right now. We are just providing the awareness.
Undergraduates we are not still identified as they are underskilled. The underemployed we are not identified.
Right. There was a point. We'll come to that. There was a point there. Yeah.
So before going to the first model awareness, I'd rather do the skilling first. Because that's proof of the pudding.
Proof of what pudding?
If I'm able to have unskilled people, skill them, employ them, I'm automatically spreading awareness.
Which is the bigger assumption? The fact that an underemployed graduate will come and take up skilling. What is the motivation to do that? To get employed. Okay. Now, do you have jobs for him?
Yes.
How?
That's what I'm saying. I mean,
Where?
see, these so-called skilled people or unemployed, underemployed, whatever they are not industry ready. These people who come out from the colleges
Correct.
are not industry ready.
Correct. So let's look at two sides of the equation, right? So on the one side, there are employers who are saying, I have job vacancies that are going empty, right? And then there are candidates who are looking for, or underemployed and looking for jobs, right? Now, if we go after the skilling option, right? I put out, a business, I build the asset, I do all of that, and I start calling people, come get skilled. But then what? Corporates? Right. Now, why will they come to you?
Because these people are more reliable, skilled, more.
Will you build the demand and then do the supply, or will you create the supply and find out demand? Okay, if you're going to build demand.
No, I'm saying demand is already there.
Yes.
Actually, sir, vacancies are also already there. It is not in industry.
No, why is the startup idea?
Okay, so let's understand what's happening on the employer side, right? So the employers, what are they doing? They are basically putting ads in vernacular media. This is what's happening. All I'm saying is proven fact.
If you look at the absolutely the ground level, right from a guy who's running a small restaurant, I'm saying even cover, to manufacturing sector, you look at every sector, people have a huge demand. But the problem is there is such a crazy skill gap that they're not able to get it.
They're not industry.
Absolutely. Correct. Right. Okay. So as a startup that's trying to solve that problem, right? If you go and talk to any of these employers in these tier 3, tier 4 locations who have technicians jobs, right? He's saying, today I'm putting out ads in vernacular press. I'm putting it in vernacular cable TV channels. I'm making these pamphlets, flyers, and putting them all over. For the last 3 months, I've not had a single interview for this posting, right? He's actually spending money, right? Each ad is $750 to 1,000 rupees, right? What's the return on that investment? Zilch.
Sir, actually the issue is the people that we are going to connect with those kind of jobs, they don't have that medium to read those.
Exactly. Not only do they have, when you say medium, they're basically not looking at the right places,
For example,
right?
if I take, sir, like domestic home service, everybody needs a domestic home servant.
Right.
Everybody is scared of domestic home servant.
Right.
If we have a space
Right.
providing a domestic home servant, we already.
Sure, right? So if you are the startup and you're saying, you know what, now how do I convince these employers? Now where's the money for the startup? Employers. Exactly, right? So you're saying, you know what, I'm going to go take these, basically digitize these vernacular ads, convert them into 140 character text messages or Twitter messages, blast them to a database of 100 candidates, which I can go handpick in the place that I am operating out of. I'm going to send it to them, and I'm going to put a job code for each one of those job postings, connect it to an IVR, right? And all they have to do is dial this toll-free IVR number, and they can build a profile by answering 10 questions. Now, for a 10,000, 20, 15,000 technician's job, you don't need a 5-page resume with 6 referrals, right? You need to know 10 things, correct? You can build, you don't need a resume, you need a profile, right? You can build it out and then keep sending these profiles to the employer, right? And say, well, look at what you did by spending these money in vernacular ads. What was the return? Nothing. But look at what I've done. For each of your posting, I've found that there are at least 15, 20 candidates that are willing to apply, right? Now, let's take this to the next level. So the interviews happen, right? What do you think is going to be the outcome of these interviews?
Employer will say they're not properly skilled.
but that percentage is going to be very, very small, right? But for every guy that went through this interview, is his motivation now to go through skilling higher? Right? And now you go tell him, come and attend my course, right? They'll come, right? Now, let's go back to where we started this, right? We said, okay, now what's the target market and the size for this startup? Is there any sense in measuring this market from the top down? Number of underemployed, unemployed graduates in, at a national level, regional level, state level, local level, and then get it down to using all of these other demographic attributes. How does that matter? How does that matter? As a startup, what is the startup having to do now? Build proof for the biggest assumption that there is enough demand for people in this demographic to actually come and get skilled. But is that a really large market where you can become the next big business? No. The mainstream is certainly the skilling market, like all of you are saying, right? Mainstream is certainly the skilling market. And that's a 20 crore business plan, right? That's a 20 crore business plan. Now, how much money do you think it will take for building this proof? And not only have you built proof for the fact that, yes, there is demand for getting skilled, you actually convert that into an efficient revenue engine. Why are we assuming that the guy will not pay for getting skilled? Number one, right? Is that proof going to come out of the fact that you're showing him jobs, you're sending him into interviews, and he's coming back failing, and you're saying, boss, take this, you will actually clear the interview, right? And he's going to say, okay, if I'm going to spend 10,000 rupees or 20,000 rupees, and if that's going to get recovered in 2 months' salary, why not? Right? So for your target customer, which is employer on the one side, clearly the cost benefit worked out, right? Here is what you're spending on vernacular press. What's that yielding? Nothing. Here is our alternative. Naturally, it's very low, low price, right? Because what's my cost of doing that? I'm sending Twitter messages, right? I can give it to him at a much lower price, which is easy for him to make a decision, right? But on the other side, the target customer being the underemployed graduate, you're also giving him both cost and benefit for him to do the cost-benefit analysis, right? So if I started out this exercise of doing a target market planning and a target revenue planning for this startup, and I do it top down, I'm having all of very glorious numbers. But the underlying proof, the foundation, is very, very shaky. But if I built this bottom up, right, and I said, I'm going to build proof, and somebody said it very well, you said 1%, right? If I can show 1% proof, 1% as 1% of the target employers market, or 1% of, let's say, the target underemployed graduates market, that 1%, whether it's 1%, 2%, 5%, I think that's dependent on the nature of the business, the context, and so on and so forth. But the point is, I'm only going to do target market planning and sizing for that 1% or that 5%, or in other words, I'm only going to plan for proof, right? Because what happens after the proof is subject to the proof, right? The story, the theory, the assumptions behind those numbers, if I drag my Excel sheet for 5 years, 10 years, 12 quarters, 15 quarters, whatever number of quarters, it's all fancy Excel work and nothing else, right? But if I build a plan for this proof and say, I'm going to look at 2% of this target market, and I'm making these assumptions, and I'm going to prove it, and then I'm actually going to go build the long-term business plan, yeah, I think we'll more or less get it right. Making sense?
Plus, you can have confidence of both the demand, that is the employer and the...
Correct. And what we did in this particular case, and which is why this example is very interesting, is because when we went and built proof, we actually created a very strong demand for the skilling business, and that's the 20 crore business, right? But will any investor give money for this 20 crores in the first go? Right? But how much money do you really want do you really need to build proof?
Much less. Right?
Sir, so what you said just now would probably apply to a service-oriented business. For instance, in my case, it's a medical product. So even to get that proof, even to get a few hospitals to actually try our product, I still need to complete the R&D, I still need to complete the testing, which does require a lot of investment even at that stage.
Absolutely.
So for something like my case, the proof itself becomes expensive because.
Correct, but when you're building a plan for a proof, of course, put all your, if let's say you're raising 10 crores or 5 crores, whatever that is, put all of that money into your product development. Right? Don't say, I need this money because I'm going to go build a marketing campaign and get 200 hospitals to sign up.
In the case of product,
That business plan is having a lot of assumptions which are unproven. You get the difference, right? So you need money for building your product, absolutely. Right? But don't ask for money for executing a plan that's not proven.